Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Pax Americana, a conversation about world affairs, global conflict, military strategy, and whatever else happens to be on my mind. As many of you know, what's been on my mind a lot lately is Admiral Raul Castex. Who was Castex? Castex was only the most brilliant military strategist that you've probably never heard of. Now, why haven't you heard of Castex? Well, I think the answer is very simple. He actually wrote too much. He wrote over a dozen books, and most importantly, his magnum opus is this. This is a 5-volume book. It is huge. This is Theorist stratégique. I think that the size is actually a real problem here because the size, besides the fact that it's a slog to read, the size makes it prohibitively expensive to reprint it. It's not in print. This is a 1997 edition. Which is very expensive. I had to buy from a bookseller in France, and because it's so expensive, I had to resort to a GoFundMe in order to raise enough money in order to buy the thing. And it also makes it prohibitively expensive to translate Castex. And consequently, if you want to read Castex, really your only option, let's put this away, is this, Eugenia Kiesling's Strategic Theories. This is a really remarkably good distillation of all 5 volumes into one single volume. Thus, it's, shall we say, highly abridged. But she did a very good job. But this is really the only version of Castex that's readily available in print. I have put a link to this book in the description, so if you want to read it, go ahead, click on the link, buy it. It's good stuff. So I'm all excited about Castex. I've already written 2 articles, which will appear eventually. It takes a while. In the meantime, what I want to do today, I'm not going to give it all away. I need to just sort of I want to give you a taste. So think of this as foreplay. So I'm going to talk about Castex and the Servitudes, which, by the way, would make a great name for a Naval Academy punk band. Now, what on earth are the Servitudes? Servitudes are, this is Castex's definition, for a determined strategy, obligations that are foreign to its normal field of action, but that nonetheless merit serious consideration. So basically, you've got a strategy, you've got a single-minded focus, but in reality, you have to be mindful of other considerations that impinge on your conduct or your carrying out of this strategy because you can't do it single-mindedly. So let's back up a little bit. Castex believed that strategy had to be total. There has to be a grand or a total strategy. And then below this grand or total strategy, there's going to be a military strategy. Of course, below the military strategy, there's going to be a land strategy, an air strategy, a naval strategy. But then also there's going to be a political strategy, or what we might call policy. There's going to be a diplomatic strategy, an economic strategy. There's going to be something that he called like a moral or morale strategy, which has to do with keeping your public on board with whatever it is you're doing. All of these strategies have to be coordinated. All of these strategies have to be subordinate to the larger, bigger picture, the larger grand strategy, which of course means that these strategies are going to make demands of one another. There has to be some sort of negotiation. Servitudes, Castex wrote, are the actions and reactions of diverse strategies. They come from the unity of war, the existence side by side of a military war, a political war, an economic war, a war of morale, etc. So, and he says that the servitudes are the internal and necessary links of this ensemble that they derive from the notion of total war. So, for example, there are political servitudes, or again, what we might call policy, that lead one to undertake certain actions or forbid other actions. The example that Castex comes to time and time again is the debate in Germany about unrestricted submarine warfare. Submarine warfare was perhaps the biggest and best and most powerful tool in the German tool chest. From a purely military point of view, it made a lot of sense to have unrestricted submarine warfare because it was really the best way to try to starve out the Allies and to weaken them. From a policy point of view, however, this is a really bad idea because unrestricted submarine warfare against commercial shipping would invariably anger neutral powers, most importantly the United States, and push them into the arms of the Allies who were fighting Germany. According to Castex, most of the time in Germany, the policy community won out over the military community, but then at some point, according to Castex, the submarine lobby, as it were, did sort of an end run around the policy people, and they managed to get the leadership, like the Kaiser, to give a green light to unrestricted submarine warfare. The result, of course, was that predictably they angered the neutrals, above all the United States, and pushed the United States to declare war on the side of the Allies. According to Castex, at that point the war was lost. There also are legal servitudes, which Castex says are always negative, because what they do is they forbid certain acts or certain procedures, certain weapons. There are economic servitudes, which might be that, okay, you can't just focus on prosecuting the war, you also have to worry about keeping your economy going, keeping your industry running, keeping your population fed, which might impinge on your military strategy one way or the other. Also, you have to prevent the enemy from keeping its economy going, from keeping its population fed, from keeping its industry running, etc. So you have to have an economic strategy that has to exist alongside the military strategy. The bottom line is, and also, again, there are the moral servitudes, which is sort of, he refers to as, he describes them in terms of keeping your population on board. You have to have public opinion behind you. Now, the bottom line is that military commanders cannot always do what they want in a single-minded pursuit of their strategy. They have to attend to the servitudes. Castex says the existence of servitudes is normal. They are an occasional form of the reciprocal relations and points of contact of diverse strategies. They are born of the unity of war and derived from the notion of total war. So, the servitudes often are good. However, one must exercise discernment. Castex says, if one cedes to these servitudes without discernment, and above all, a necessary method, like a method for figuring out which servitudes you attend to and which you don't, and how you prioritize, etc., strategy easily forgets its own permanent goal. So, go ahead and attend to the servitudes, Castex wanted to say, because otherwise you'll get yourself in big trouble. However, always keep in mind that what they are, that it's a distraction from your main strategy, right, a diversion, and how they relate to your overall strategy. You must never lose sight of the bigger picture. Now, when we look at conflicts today, let's look at Ukraine, for example, from a military point of view, it's pretty clear what you need to do in order to help the Ukrainians win the war. However, there are political servitudes, policy servitudes that are in place. For example, it is a policy servitude that one must avoid escalating the conflict with the Russians. There must, God forbid, not be any direct conflict between NATO and the Russians, because, among other things, this could lead, God forbid, to the use of nuclear weapons, which would be really, really bad. When I look at Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, I can't really tell from afar, but I am very concerned that the Israelis are not attending to the servitudes, right? The political servitudes, the diplomatic servitudes, the servitudes having to do with public opinion. I'm concerned that maybe what they've done is exactly what Castex said you really can't do, which is just to let the military servitude sort of leap to the fore and determine everything. Roughly analogous to the German decision to use unrestricted submarine warfare, which ultimately could be disastrous, even if from a military strategy point of view, it's actually quite sound. I will leave it at that, keep this short and sweet. If you want to read Castex again, get this book. There's a link in the description. Also, please feel free to subscribe to my Substack. Again, link in the description. It's under the name Pax Americana. A paid subscription would be great because I got to pay for all these books. Also, check out my website, michaelshirkin.com. I can also be found on LinkedIn and Twitter. Links in the description. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.